Well, welcome everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Maria Gill for her fourth Monday talk today. We're very excited to hear from her about cosmopolitanism in its many forms and what cosmopolitans really care about. Dr. Gill came to us first as an adjunct, but as a full-time member of our faculty in 22-23, which was a great year to start here, I think. Really one of the very best among those things. She earned her PhD at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. Can't imagine anybody else with those ties around here. An international MBA at the University of South Carolina. She has studied in Austria. She studied in Worcester, Mass. She earned her first bachelor's degree at the Escuela Superior Politécnica de Litoral.
Perfect.
Pretty close. In Ecuador. She has written widely with a number of colleagues on the subject of today's conversation. So we're really excited to have her and look forward to learning more about cosmopolitanism and how we speak to them in a marketing world. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. So welcome to the fourth volume series. And my name, Maria Soledad Gil del Alcázar. It's a very long name. Just to introduce the topic of cosmopolitanism too. In Ecuador we use all these names. We have first name, second, middle name, and sometimes third name, and we use two last names. So that's part of being in different cultures, because my full legal name has two last names. I always have to use it here at Wesleyan too. You see it in my email signature and my email different things. But I usually go with just Maria Gill. I mean, that's what I am here in the States. Thank you for coming. I see it's a small but good group, and variety of a group. It's going to be a consumer behavior presentation. I'm in the area of marketing, but I specialize more on consumer behavior, and that's where I built my scholarship, basically. But it's very intertwined. And I wanted to start this presentation with introducing myself a little bit. I know I put in introduction or in the little abstract that it was going to be a semi-anecdotal presentation, because I wanted to introduce myself. I mean, I've had some time, and sometime here 1 year and a half, and I've been able to talk to some of you because I've searched for professors in committees. I've sat with some of you, but not with everyone. So I don't think you guys know too much about me. I appreciate the introduction that talk a little bit about academia, where I've been, but to sum it all, I kind of come with a background of myself trying to be a cosmopolitan or being a cosmopolitan. As you can hear in my accent, English is not my first language, and my first language is Spanish, but English is not even my second language, because I went to the German school where my second language was German. So, and you can see in there that my parents decided that I had to be a citizen of the world. I was wondering if anyone in here has read or come across in your own disciplines anything about cosmopolitanism at all. So a little bit, it was a little bit of a trend coming up in the 80s, 90s. 2000s, early 2000s is when it became a little bit more studied with quantitative data, but it kind of stopped because the major trend was more into globalization. But continuing with this, my parents still wanted me to be more of a cosmopolitan, and I do bring it out to my kids too. I have 3 kids. When I started at Wesleyan, I only had 2. So I have a 13 and a 12-year-old. And if you ask them where they are from, they will tell you they're Ecuadorian. And then you will go further and you will ask them, but where were you born? And they will tell you, we were born in Vegas. So they're a little bit confused. And I have a 1-year-old that actually responds to comment, like you can ask him with commands in Arabic and in Spanish. We're not working on the English yet, but whenever he is around people, he tends to say thank you for everything because he knows that's what everyone is going to understand. So building on this cosmopolitanism, I believe it's important to recognize what this cosmopolitan consumer orientation is a little bit, and why I decided to go into this. As I started my PhD, I knew I had to go into decide what I wanted to do, and I started seeing this topic of cosmopolitanism, and I figured out like, well, this is something. I was in this literature and thought class, and I was like, this cosmopolitanism, it just looks to me as the intelligent or smart sister of globalization. Globalization has more of this more negative connotation of making the world a little smaller and just closing boundaries or opening boundaries, but making it small. Cosmopolitanism has, on the other hand, this idea that it's a little bit into being happy with variety, going places. You having to consciously going and buying something from somewhere else, and that's why I thought that I want to study this, and I want to find evidence to say that this is what is happening, or this is where I would like it to go. So instead of continuing with globalization, I want to say that the next generation or the next trend to come is going to be cosmopolitanization. And I don't know if Dr. Templeton will agree, but it goes a little bit with a more moral or ethical attachment, cosmopolitanization, like being globalization the devil, cosmopolitanization the good, and smarter sister, like I'm trying to say, because it has more of an ethical edits into it. And I'm not sure if that's true, but that's why when I was in my literature and third class, I said, well, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to investigate. However, that topic doesn't go for a dissertation. It goes for scholarship where I can build on it, but it had to be something that you could study or that you could close into a dissertation. So what I did is that I went into studying the effect of cosmopolitan consumer behavior on the consumption of sustainable apparel. That for me would bring this good part of this consumer that wants to save the world. So some of my work tries to say that tries to figure out if the cosmopolitan consumer or the new generation is trying to save the world. And I study a lot textiles and apparel industry, and that was kind of like my area in during my PhD program. And definitely there is this going on where the textiles and apparel industry, they are huge, and they definitely they make some major contribution to the global economy. I mean, whether we are fashion heads or whether we are very conservative, we all have to buy clothes. We always have different options, and there's always stuff going on. When I talk to my grandmother, she doesn't understand that fashion has evolved and that it's becoming the dirtiest industry in the world because people are buying too many clothes. And we have too many seasons of clothing in the year now. And the new clothes are being put out in the market, and people are asked to keep on buying them. So it ends up being that although the textile and apparel industry, it's a major contributor and moves the global economy with the trade, the income that it generates for everyone that participates, and the employment it generates, because there's a lot of labor involved in it. It challenges our ecosystem. It challenges our social order. So it has been said that it's the second biggest polluter worldwide. Cotton is named as the dirtiest agricultural commodity because it involves using too many pesticides. There is 713 liters of water used to create one cotton shirt. As I was saying, it's highly labor intensive, but sometimes this labor is contracted in countries where labor is cheaper. Sometimes they're under dangerous conditions, and sometimes without laws protecting the people. And that to say also that fast fashion magnifies this and negative impact with all these clothes that are being put out in the market, enticing us to buy it, enticing us to buy something that we wear 5 times, and then we continue on buying new ones. So, well, that is the situation with textiles and apparel. Then we have this cosmopolitan consumer orientation that for consumer behavior means openness towards foreign countries and cultures, which basically means that they engage with other cultures and with other countries. They are open to buy stuff from them. They appreciate this diversity. So if they go to a supermarket, a person with higher cosmopolitan consumer orientation would like to see all these things from different countries. We want to have the availability of these products, and we have a positive disposition towards consuming these products. So not only we want to see them, we want to buy them. For cosmopolitan consumers, the world is their marketplace. So they're more willing to go and search in different places for those. They're more willing to search for products that are not only at their reach, making that a very good, to say like a market for different products that are not so easily available, especially now that we have so much stuff that is online that we don't need to have it in our retail system here close by. And it is worth studying because of the situation merits that. So I came up with these research questions for this study that I'm going to talk about today. And I wanted to figure out if, in line with my cosmopolitan being the sister of globalization, if this CCO, the consumer cosmopolitan orientation, in consumers can predict consumer sustainable apparel behavior. If this predicts that they will buy, they will be interested in buying it, basically. And I wanted to know if this effect of cosmopolitan consumer orientation differs among young consumers from countries with different economic levels of development. So, say, in different countries that have, I don't know, different GDPs, different internet penetration, for example, or a difference in how many KFCs and McDonald's and IKEAs there are. I found this research gap because while I was trying to solve my first question about cosmopolitanization, I started researching and I found that there was not enough said about the relationship between CCO and sustainable consumption. Quantitative, there was not much, almost nothing quantitative that I could get a hold on in terms of sustainable consumption. So I decided that the relevance for this study would be if I could create something that would examine how CCO impacts consumer sustainable behavior based on an integrative model, meaning that it has more than just CCO. Do you buy more? Different determinants that will go in this model. I wanted to know if CCO varies across countries. It had been said before that for that CCO vary depending on the product and depending on the product category or the country. So different countries would be reacting differently to different products. Also, I wanted to explore whether the country level of development impacted these relationships, if it had something to do at all. And I found that there was a country that was neglected in every study. That was Ecuador. It was non-existent in the research. So I decided to go with it and created a whole methodology. Unfortunately, Paul Ewell is not here, and I dedicated part of my talk to him because we were in a meeting and he said something about marketing being a soft kind of area. I was like, what does that mean? I mean, I know I'm from Ecuador, so I'm like, I don't really know what you mean when you tell me it's soft. Like, and I found out that it was like lack of data, lack of maybe rigorous statistics employed in there. And I felt like, okay, maybe because we have a bad reputation with marketing research. But it was easy to go and try to challenge this, because even though we talk and we can say, yes, I think Cosmopolitans will be more inclined to buy sustainable apparel, and I can tell you all these things why, or all these reasons why, there is a lot of research behind it. So even when I started my study, I didn't know what I had gotten myself into. And so in terms of methodology, I created a very rigorous methodology, of course with the support of very good researchers and scientifics. But so it is based on a conceptual model that looks like this, and it has 13 different hypotheses. 9 are main hypotheses, and it's an integrative conceptual model based on the theory of plant behavior, which takes into account more than just the intention to buy something. It takes into account also like our attitude together with our perceived norm, which is basically how fear or how much social pressure we feel towards consuming something, or how our community makes us buy something or adapt and conform to something. And it also takes into account this perceived behavioral control, which is more related towards like, do I have the capability, the ability, like the competency to buy this sustainable apparel. So like these determinants are in there for a reason, because I think that will have some effect into the actual intention to purchase sustainable apparel. As part of the cross-cultural analysis, I also wanted to know if this economic level of development was going to have some impact. So I had put together these research with 10 different professors in 3 countries, Ecuador, US, and India, to collect this data basically from students. In the US, I used MTurk, of course, constraining ages and all these different nice things to make these three samples workable. And then I went into data analysis. Of course, I had to do some data screening, detect missing values, and engage responses, and eliminate these people that I would think they were not paying attention and just responding maybe in a pattern, or were skipping questions. So those questions would be, or those respondents will be eliminated. If there was any outliers, people that were thinking too much out of the box, and I will check if the data would obey by these assumptions of it. Then I did some exploratory factor analysis. I set up a 2-step structural equation modeling. Is anyone here familiar with SEM? No? So it was a 2-step structural equation modeling that is required when you're doing this kind of research. And of course, it was necessary even more in my kind of research because I had different countries in different groups that I needed to make sure that could be analyzed in this way. So I had multi-group tests to test the hypotheses and in very different procedures that I had to follow, basically. And my results, at the structural level, to make the story short, I found out that CCO does impact intention to purchase sustainable apparel. So people that have a stronger cosmopolitanism, cosmopolitan consumer orientation are more interested in buying these sustainable apparel. It influences the attitudes, it influences their perceived apparel sustainability knowledge, so they feel that they know more about sustainable apparel. They actually do not perceive that they have more of a capability or ability to overcome barriers to purchase sustainable apparel. They actually don't feel that it is there for them to buy. I also noticed that impact on perceived norm is unnoticeable or no. The literature already had told me that one of the characteristics of consumers or cosmopolitans is that they try to go by what they believe and not so much following the social pressures of the world. And that's why they are different, and that's why they would be leaders in the market whenever they are consuming. So they are actually people that can influence people to buy something. They are probably the first ones to wear something out there, and they are able to pass the message around, basically. In terms of the country level of development, I found that it was not a moderator in the hypothesis. Therefore, basically, whether these people that I surveyed were in India, in Ecuador, or the US, they felt that more or less the same. I mean, they were interested in buying sustainable apparel. They felt that they were not very able or capable to buy the sustainable apparel. They felt that they had sustainable knowledge, and they felt that they could buy it. At the country level of development, their effects of CCO on attitude, knowledge, perceived norm, and perceived behavioral control do not differ based on whether the customer is from an advanced economy, the US, or a developing economy, the Ecuador or India. I mean, remember that India has a lot of textiles and apparel in their country. I mean, they are big exporters. So I thought there could be something in there that they might have, that it would make some kind of like difference. But they kind of like all look the same. Being US and India, for example, I thought they're big countries and they're very open, and it didn't make a difference as opposed to Ecuador being very small. I found that it is likely that young cosmopolitans belong to a privileged class that is less affected by national level deficiencies. And these national level deficiencies that I was thinking about when I was analyzing globalization data were more in line with, for example, the penetration of internet. Or I was thinking maybe to get a GDP, they don't have the purchase power. But apparently that was not what is not enabling probably them to buy only. But what interested me is that at least on some country strata, because I think that students in all these three countries are kind of like a privileged segment of the market that actually are able to take the time to go to school, especially in Ecuador and India, but here in the US too. We tend to see these every day, especially here too, that it's a privilege to go to be able to be enrolled in the university. So at least in these kind of like country strata, globalization, cosmopolitanization, whatever we want to call it, penetrates developing economies, and cosmopolitan orientation affects the consumption of sustainable apparel. So I would like to think that we can move towards a more sustainable market of clothing, just because cosmopolitan consumers are increasing, or the numbers or the orientation is growing a little bit more. I don't know if it's because we have more products from everywhere, or because people are more interested, or becoming more in tone with their environmental and social concerns. But at least we can see that we can go towards the right side and not just consumption that is people breaking the world. In terms of theoretical implications for this study, the study contributes to the ethical discourse on consumer cosmopolitanism, bringing us the idea that we are, or that the next generation might be more interested in protecting the world, and might be even willing to buy sustainable apparel if it's available to them. And empirical evidence supports the superiority of integrative proposed model guided by theory of planned behavior. This is something interesting in terms of theory, because a lot of the models that are followed by cosmopolitan studies are not following one specific theory, or they lack different determinants. So they lack the kind of explanation that we need, or they don't explain the amount of variance that we would like the studies to explain. This research contributes to a stronger theoretical understanding of CCO. It brings it more with quantitative data too. And behavioral outcomes tend to be product category and country specific, like I said before. This expands the literature specifically on sustainable apparel. Now, the study provides also clear understanding of the homogeneity of young metropolitans in advanced countries and developing economies. And this is something that we probably can see here in our classes, when you have all your international students from, I don't know, Argentina and Colombia and what other one is big, and even Italy probably, where similar things. I mean, they're able to adapt really fast, or you would think they're adapting really fast, or they are wearing almost the same clothes, or looking with or using the same attire. So this tells about this homogeneity of young metropolitans, consumers, and also this study contributes to the CCO literature in the context of Ecuador, which was something that you couldn't find in literature before this study. In terms of managerial implications, I noted 5 different ones. Of course, there might be many more, but I say it helps with marketing segmentation, because we can target cosmopolitan consumers for sustainable apparel, and that's something that we should do. And we can leverage their affinity for socially and culturally significant products. Also, in terms of international marketing, we can capitalize on cross-national similarities in cosmopolitan consumer behavior to develop effective global marketing strategies, meaning that we can probably save a little bit of money by creating campaigns that can have a global reach, because this particular segment will kind of like be able to understand these campaigns in the same way or in similar ways, or not even understand them, but they want to see them in the similar way. Maybe because they are very in tune with their social media, with friends from all over, or because they are interested in fashion. In terms of informative and normative influences, I didn't talk too much about this, but my results showed that these consumers were really a little bit more interested in information, in aspects, in facts, rather than these more normative influences, which is this social pressure. The effect was almost null for 2 countries, U.S. and India, and it was not even significant for Ecuador. So these students were kind of like trying not to follow just the social order or whatever everyone was telling them that they had to wear. They were willing to try something new, basically. And what recommendation would be was that we can craft marketing messages emphasizing sustainability and align with metropolitan values to drive this purchase intention. So we need to actually try to target them and position our products in a way that they will be able to understand them, buy them, and learn something from these products before they buy them, basically. Well, one other implication is that they need to provide accessible, sustainable apparel. This research found that there are these barriers that are not broken yet. So basically, people are not finding sustainable apparel in the easiest way. There are different things that appear in literature very commonly, and this might be that it's not available in the area where you're buying your apparel. Maybe it is that you cannot identify if something that says that it's sustainable, it's really, in fact, sustainable. Or if it is something that you would want to buy that is sustainable. Also, another part of it could be that it's more expensive. Even though my research, and this is part of another study, it said that these cosmopolitan consumers, or this sample that I had, they were willing to pay more, up to 50% more for sustainable apparel. So maybe that's not the biggest barrier, but it's not. Maybe it is just that it's not marketed to them. Maybe they are not getting the message of the sustainable apparel. So therefore not having access, therefore not buying it. And also we have to design and position products strategically, tailoring product offerings and marketing to match the lifestyle and preferences of cosmopolitan consumers. I don't know, it happens to me sometimes that I go to TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and I know which brands are kind of like the free people, that they say they're a little bit more sustainable, and their design is probably not the one that the younger people want. Probably it's matching to my style, but not to them. So I don't know if we are lacking a little bit in terms of the design and positioning of products towards them, because as the research is showing, they are willing to embrace it. It's just that they are not feeling that they are capable or competent to do it. And in terms of this study, it opens doors for new research, of course. There is much more that I would like to do with my data and my scholarship in this area. One thing would be probably replicate things in a few years to see if it changes, if people are more cosmopolitan. If the same group now is actually able to buy, or is actually exerting their right to actually buy sustainable apparel. I could do maybe a better sample by choosing a different group, or picking, or I don't know. But there's a lot of different venues to continue these kind of research. So now with this, I wanted to open the floor to any questions, and that I'll try to answer. Yes.
You kind of hinted at this when you were describing your ordeal at TJ Maxx. Are there internationally recognized or industry approved or any other accrediting measures of what makes a garment sustainable, or what percentage, or any way it can be measured in a way that a consumer can understand?
Yeah, the concept in itself is really broad. By studying apparel, and by trying to focus on this area, that's why I call it sustainable apparel, because it can be all these different things that people can decide, or companies can decide to be sustainable on to some extent. So there are some companies that would say, well, we want to use recycled fiber, and that's the way they want to be sustainable. Whereas like there is another trend that says, no, we don't want this recycled fiber, because it takes a lot of energy to break the fibers and to reassemble them. There's some multiple manufacturing facilities where they do this in China, for example, and Chinese were the ones that were studying this a lot, and they were getting to the conclusion that it was not helping the environment because of everything that they had to spend on. but people like the concept of it. Then there is these other certifications that you can get because you're using organic cotton, for example. And by harvesting organic cotton, you will have a different product, and you can sell your product with a tag that says, okay, this is organic cotton. Buy me. Is it better? It doesn't use the pesticides, but can they have maybe used labor in conditions that were not good? So that's how big this is.
So, good presentation. I had a question that was, what is sustainable apparel? But in your answer, you kind of answered it, but my new question is there any kind of sustainable? It sounded like in your answer to Dr. Saris that recycling takes more resources than creating it independently, anew. So is there, I mean, sustainable is kind of a word that doesn't mean anything anymore, right? So can you maybe speak to what is this concept of sustainable apparel?
And my concept of sustainable apparel was an all-encompassing one, without saying what's the degree, what's the better sustainability. At some point, like there's this huge problem in consumer behavior because, for example, if I tell you that, okay, just don't use the bottles of water, don't use the disposable water bottles because it's plastic and it's creating all these piles of garbage that we cannot do anything with. And then you think, well, but it's not doing anything if I just do it. So if there's a lot of these going on, like even if we try with a little bit at a time, we might be able to help a little bit. Or do we want to just consume all the plastic and then create these big vacuums that can take the plastic from the sea? I mean, I don't know what's the better way, and I don't know if anyone knows, but I couldn't find the real answer to that. Like if there's something that is really like the ultimate good sustainable apparel that I would want to buy. But maybe because I have this part of me that says I don't know if they're really doing the right thing. Because greenwashing is a big problem too.
So what do you think about like these very large online consignment markets like Poshmark, ThredUp, that are enormous and very popular and very searchable? Do you feel like would that be considered sustainable?
It is. It is a trend in sustainable consumption, especially in apparel, because you're giving it a second use. Even if you turn it like even when you turn these apparel, and there was something in literature, but I don't remember exactly what it was saying. But this trend that, for example, that it's being done in Ecuador a lot. When you finish using a shirt, your mom takes your shirt and it's used to clean something. That trend, they push for that. I mean, going back to basics, basically that's what they say it is. So I think it helps a lot by giving it a second use. I haven't tried it too much.
It's very geared towards, I would say, younger generations, very, very
And-
using online to
And
search.
even the rentals, like there is this rentals that we can actually like have access to designer clothing, and even though designer clothing we tend to keep. I mean, I can attest from my anecdotes. My mom saved clothes from when I was born, that all my kids have worn. Like my mom is from that era where you save all this good clothing that actually can last. So I have a lot of those for all my kids, and I'm saving some that she hand did for my grandkids and who knows for who. Yes. I think you had it up earlier.
Actually, I have a question that builds on yours. So when you were asking the Cosmopolitan students in your survey about sustainability and their access to sustainable apparel, how did you frame that for them? How did you define it for them?
I use measurements that were already tested in academia. Basically, I mean, I didn't use any new one, I wanted to use something that had been tested for reliability and to make sure my data was going to be able to be workable. So basically, in terms of knowledge, it's what they feel they know. It's their perceived knowledge. And in terms of attitude, it's what they feel. If they feel that's good, you know. In terms of perceived behavior, it's basically perceived behavioral control. Is that if they feel that they're in control of buying clothing.
I think that's so interesting, and to build on your question, I wonder if the secondhand market moderates the lack of sense of price barrier. So I think that would be really interesting to think about, if some young people are thinking about sustainability not just as like Eileen Fisher uses all organic flax, but also like I can go on Depop and get this band shirt, like that the Depop like thrift store market is gonna be less, I think, I would guess, I don't know, a barrier in terms of price. And that might be really interesting to explore using the theory of behavior. This was really interesting, thank you.
Thank you. So, am I having a question? Or- No, it's just a comment. Okay. Yeah, because I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is opening. I mean, it's opening the debate to actually like, well, what is the social pressure?
Yeah.
Can I use or reuse clothes? I mean, would it be good? Do I hide it, or do I tell everyone open wide that I'm renting my clothes?
Yes, it kind of falls in line with both of the other questions. As far as the definition of cosmopolitan, and how that relates to those that are using the secondhand market, the consignment shops, is there any, or how much did you put into defining the cosmopolitan as far as their behavior goes? Because, for example, I know that I see now there's secondhand shoe stores in almost every shopping center, every other shopping center at least. And it's interesting in that market that a pair of shoes that was bought for $150 is being sold for $350, a year later. And the same thing with certain, dresses and things like that. So the price actually goes up. And the cosmopolitan, because I know you said that it's not I heard you mention that it's not necessarily a trend on the influence from their peers, but it's more the individualized side of things. And so I guess my question is the definition of cosmopolitan that you have used for your study, how does that relate to potentially this secondhand market? Was that looked at in yours, or is that maybe something that would be an offshoot? Or?
I can't say that I had any question related to secondhand per se, but I did include in my survey a definition of what sustainable apparel will entail, and I listed everything I could think of. So I put in there the secondhand, the recycling. I put in there stuff that helps the environment, the use of organic, the second-hand apparel. So it was included in the concept that I would put in the survey so that they would know what I'm talking about, or what it is all included. But I didn't ask a question specifically like, would you use the second-hand? So I didn't. I didn't even go into particulars of sustainability, because it goes, and at some point I was kind of like, well, what should I do? But for example, I was thinking, like, I'm a mom, for example, and I don't mind maybe buying second-hand clothes for me. I'll wash them and I'll use them. Would I use them on my babies? Not even on my 13-year-old. So just in that little example, it's like I have like already a conflict. Like I would use it for me, but not for them. So at the same time, I wasn't feeling that I could be all asking something very, very particular, and that's why I decided to go with the big sustainable apparel name, encompassing like a little bit of everything, telling you that it's a lot of everything. Because if you start thinking about this part, then no, I'm not going to be sustainable with my kid in terms of secondhand. I'm gonna be sustainable with my kid, for sure, if you tell me that the non-organic wipes to clean them are gonna be bad for them. Yes, I'm gonna buy the organic. But at the same time, like, would I buy them for me? Maybe not. Special soaps. So I don't know. I had that kind of conflict even when trying to define what this was going to be.
I just have one more. Is that okay? Oh no, wait. Someone hasn't talked. Go ahead.
Could you show us that diagram that you started off with those hypotheses?
Yes. I actually have one that have the results, but I wasn't going to present on those, so I didn't include them in the.
I just wondered if you, I mean, you had a slide that told us a little bit about which ones were supported. Could you just summarize maybe the hypotheses that were supported?
Yeah, so basically I had a lot of supportive hypotheses, and the one that I kind of like couldn't find them to be supported were H5 and H8,
Right.
which relate to perceived form, because their pressure to conform to what the society is telling them, it was not there. And that's something that is in literature. That's why they are leaders as consumers. They are leaders in the market, and that's why we would follow them a lot of times, because they would just think a little bit outside the box. Another one that was sometimes not being supported was H4, which was how sustainable apparel sustainability knowledge will apply towards making you think that it's a good thing to buy sustainable apparel. So towards here. So this one is for the U.S. sample, and the U.S. sample told me that perceived control, their cosmopolitanism, or the CCO, is not affecting through behavioral control their intention to buy sustainable apparel. So perceived behavioral control, they didn't feel, and all this being competent on buying sustainable apparel for some reason, it was very low. So I'm not sure if because it was kind of low that it wouldn't be significant, but I am assuming that that's kind of like where it goes. In the Ecuadorian sample, they definitely didn't want to conform, so my H5 was not supported, and perceived behavioral control, as in India too, was not supported. I did some changes to behavioral control, different behavioral control scales and measurements, and I don't think it was a lack of good measurement. It was more like they don't feel that they can buy, or they don't feel that it's available, or they are competent to buy sustainable apparel. It could be that it's just not targeted to them. I'm feeling that if I go to, I'm trying to put it into my perspective when I go to TJ Maxx, or when I go to even to Saks Fifth Avenue. I don't know which one is the sustainable apparel. And I don't feel that even for younger crowds, it's really there for them. It's not made for them yet, which I think my study, that's what it's suggesting, that you should create these depending on based on their style and the design that they want, so that they can use it, because they're craving information. Part of the research, what it's saying is that it doesn't matter where they are, these young consumers, they are thinking alike, and they want these sustainable apparel. They just can't find it. So I think, that's one of the bigger conflicts here, that I feel that probably they are not being targeted by these brands or by manufacturers of sustainable apparel. You know, I went with, I have to admit that when I just started my program, my PhD program in cars at UNCG, like I tried the Sheen thing that everyone was getting. I tried that like 2016, and it was terrible. Like the service was terrible. It would take 20 days to arrive. It was just bad fashion. It was just bad fabric, bad design. It wouldn't take, like you wouldn't be able to use it. I mean, these days you can use it. So it arrives fast, even though it's being made when you order it. I mean, it has changed. I mean, it's 8 years. I feel that they're making it work. It needs targeted towards youngsters, even though I would think the other segments of the market are buying it, but it's targeted to them because they can access it.
I did have a serious question. I don't know if this is tangential, but when you did research on young people, did you get a sense of how many were influenced by social media influencers, how big a deal that was, and choices?
That's a study to come. I have collected some data that I haven't come to conclusions yet. But there was something about, I did gather something about social media and how they're getting their information. Because definitely I think there's something in there. I have something.
It's a career, right? People do that for a living.
Yes. But I had something in there was telling me that, for example, this is from 2018, and for example, you see internet penetration. Ecuador 57. What is this? 7% of the population have internet. In India, only 34%, whereas in the US, 87%. So if they feel, I mean, if they're still affected by cosmopolitan consumer orientation towards buying sustainable apparel and stuff like that, I mean, I feel that they do have this way of communicating. Like, I think they break the barrier, cosmopolitan consumers, it's these young consumers, they break the barrier of not having all the resources so available as we have in the US, but they still get the access. I mean, and that's why I was saying that I feel that they are privileged strata in Ecuador and India, as well as I would think in here too. Is it time off? Anyone else?
We have 6 more minutes.
Huh?
We have 5 more minutes now.
5 more minutes. So shoot, I'm having fun though. I hope this has been very informative though. Interesting, touching home. I don't know. I feel that in my area, in marketing and consumer behavior, everyone can relate. Everyone can say like, well, I'm an expert because I'm a consumer. I consume every day. I wear clothes every day. So I have my own way of dressing up. I have my experience. I have experience in the market. So I feel it's something that everyone can relate to. So there's no more questions. Thank you for coming. I hope you were able to learn something more about me. And if you have any questions, any projects that you want to do, welcome.